Hello everybody and welcome back. I got another top 10 video for you today, and it's my top 10 favorite comic book movies. Yes, another comic book related one, but also cinema related one. These, you can argue, aren't necessarily the best, but these are the ones that I definitely love the most. One of them is definitely going to be a controversial pick for some people, but I saw it in theaters when I was really young, and I fell in love with it, and I'm very much in love with the character that's based on. I even got my hat for the occasion and my Avengers t-shirt. Anyways, on to the list. First, I got a couple honorable mentions. It's only two, right? Yeah, two. Oh. The honorable mentions aren't in any particular order. Watchmen. Really, really faithful adaptation. It's way too hot in this house to wear that. Really faithful adaptation of the comic, and this is the director's cut, which is even more accurate. It has the side story, and it is awesome. It is wonderful to watch. The only problem I have with it is that it is really, really long, and it's a little too much slow-mo with it, so I can't call it one of my favorites. I mean, it is one of my favorites, but not quite there to make the top 10. Close, but not quite. The next is The Dark Knight Rises. Yes, The Dark Knight Rises. This is my favorite of the modern Batman films. I felt it had the best action, best directing, best acting. Thought it was best overall. And yes, I know Heath Ledger's Joker was phenomenal, but this is the first time live action we've seen Bane done really, really well. So that's why it's considered high regard for me. Anyways, those are my honorable mentions, and now we're moving on. First is X-Men First Class. This is my favorite of the X-Men films. And I promise this list isn't just strictly Marvel. A lot of it is, but it's not strictly Marvel. Let's face it, Marvel did movies the best, especially now. X-Men First Class is wonderful. This one, I felt, used the characters to the best as of yet. The problem I have with the X-Men movies is they really don't have a lot. They don't really show them being the X-Men too often. They more or less show them as being the X-Men, but not using their powers as often as they should be. This one, I felt, since they're in training a lot, it shows how well these characters are. And the one problem I have with it is that the characters really aren't used as much in Days of Future Past, which is very upsetting, especially since Matthew Vaughn is a wonderful director. It goes to show with his other comic book movies, such as Kick-Ass and Kingsman, And it seems as though if anyone ever takes the direction chair from him, it just doesn't work as well. That's why I think this fared out better, because it's lighthearted at times and it's serious when it needs to be. And I thought that Days of Future Past was too dark too often. This one was the perfect balance, which is why it's my favorite X-Men movie. Next, 300. This is awesome. This is just a perfect guy movie. That's all I can really say about it. Never read the comic, but apparently it's just a, I guess, a steelbook. Apparently it is a frame-by-frame direct adaptation of it. And it's wonderful. It's really cool. I love the line, "Tonight we dine in hell, this is Sparta," all that fun stuff. It is a really, really fun movie. A little too much slow-mo, but aside from that, it is a great time. I honestly can't recommend this movie enough if you just want a action masterpiece. Next, Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. This is my favorite of the Superman films. This one was just really impressive. I loved the darker tone this had to it with the Richard Donner cut. I never actually saw the regular Superman 2. I do have it, I think, somewhere. But I think this is the addition. This is definitely wonderful. Important notes. Sorry, I felt I heard something shaking there. I just want to be sure it wasn't anything serious. And even though it's dark, it's still Superman. This is how Man of Steel basically should have been. I liked Man of Steel a lot, don't get me wrong. But I feel as though if Man of Steel tried to be more like this, it would have been way, way better. And people would have appreciated more, because Man of Steel, it was too dark, it wasn't colorful. It's Superman. He's not supposed to be taken seriously. He's Superman. He can't be killed unless it's by his own species or he has kryptonite, pieces of his planet by him. That's the only way he can really die. And I'm not going to delve into the whole Superman mythology because I don't know it that well, but he's invincible. His only superpower is that he's on our planet. And it is wonderful, and this shows that it doesn't have to be that serious. This is the controversial one, because I know a lot of people will disagree with me with it. but I love this character. I was just wearing his hat, but I took it off because his house is way too hot. I think the action is great. I think the characters are great, and I even like this origin story better than I like better than I like his actual origin story. Yes, it's the Punisher, the John Travolta, Thomas Jane one. I feel as though this is the best Punisher movie that we have yet. I do like the other ones. The Dolph Lundgren one was so stupid, it was entertaining, but it had the most action in it, which I appreciated. And while the newest one, Warzone, was gory, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. This one, I like the origin story better than even the comic book version, because I think the comic book version was kind of just more, when I think about it, it's just like the mob killed people in broad daylight. I just think they wouldn't do that. But it's a comic book, so really you're not supposed to take it seriously anyway. But this is just wonderful. I saw this. I think this is one of the first R-rated movies my dad let me see in theaters, and I just think it just works the best because this character is just all around great. I love the Punisher. I love his stories. I have a lot of Punisher story arcs. I even have this. This is the Punisher. This is the Punisher comic that came with seeing the movie. As you can tell, I know it's not worth as much as the traditional one, but this holds really high sentimental value to me. I even got it out just to show everybody on here. But this is a great adaptation of the Punisher. And I wish they would have followed up with this story, had Jigsaw be in this story arc as opposed to Warzone. But we're not going to get that anymore. And I heard Tom Hardy was up for the Punisher next. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing him, but it's definitely cool that they have him as an option. Well, at least he's in consideration. Next is Tim Burton's Batman, the first one. I don't know what it is about this movie. This movie is just fantastic. Everything about it just kind of works, and Jack Nicholson's Joker is phenomenal. This is what I mean by This is what I mean by I like Rises better than the regular Dark Knight, because, as I said, Joker done well before. Mark Hamill, Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger. All performances of the Joker have been great so far. Maybe Jared Leto will screw it up, be the one that doesn't do it right, or maybe he'll do it phenomenally. We don't know. But this is the first time in live action that the Joker has been done really well, and it's done differently each time. And Michael Keaton is Bruce Wayne. He is Batman. And I know Bob Kane has said, apparently he's said that Batman Forever's Bruce Wayne, I can't remember the actor's name, but his Bruce Wayne is the best, most accurate to the character. But I like his sly, unassuming character in this, and he is just a likable guy in this movie, while also keeping the dark tone, and the action is also really good, well done, especially for 80s. Next, back to Marvel. This is a Marvel Cinematic Universe one. It's the Avengers, the first one, because obviously I don't have the Avengers Age of Ultron on Blu-ray yet, but I actually like Avengers more, the first one, because the first Avengers was the first one, it built up to the action. The second one, maybe, like I said in the review for it, the 3D did burn my eyes a lot, and that was very distracting, and I kind of just wanted the movie to end. But with this, it was so well paced. I loved all the characters. Some people say, oh, it's just Iron Man 3 before Iron Man 3 even came out, but I don't see it like that. I see it as the Avengers, and everyone in this movie is wonderful. And I saw this in 3D, and it didn't even burn my eyes. I don't know how that worked out. But this is the quintessential blockbuster summer movie. This is wonderful. I don't know who hasn't seen this yet. If anyone hasn't seen it yet, see it. I don't know why you haven't, but that's the Avengers, and it's, like I said, it's top. But here's the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie that I liked a lot more than the Avengers. And I mean, this is the best yet, and I think it's going to be the best until the sequel. Or maybe Infinity War. I don't know how any of those are going to turn out. Guardians of the Galaxy. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy comics. The movie was wonderful. And I know it took liberties from it, but the liberties it taken, I didn't mind. I was still invested in the characters. These are still the characters that I love. It's still Rocket, it's still Star-Lord, it's still Drax, it's still Gamora, it's still Groot. This is more along the lines of the Marvel Now Guardians as opposed to the 2008 Guardians of the Galaxy, because this is who it focuses on. I mean, in the Marvel Now ones, there is Iron Man. But if you go by the 2018, there's a lot more characters. But this is wonderful. I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 to see how they do it. I just hope they don't do the whole, it needs more action, needs more, all that stuff. I just hope they focus, keep the characters important. I would love to see more action. Not more, but, you know, action in it still. See these characters go at it. But this is all, like, it's as close to a perfect comic book movie as you're going to get. This is why it's the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movie we're going to get for a long time. Getting a bit darker now. The Crow. Oh my goodness, this was my cheer-up movie for some reason when I was in high school. If I was down, I'd put, because it's just a perfect downer movie. It just kind of sets the tone, and everything just flows so well. And like I said in my top 10 comic books that you should check out, the comic book's more of a horror story and much darker, much more violent. But this is also still a bit of a horror story, but it's also an action film. It has great martial arts because Brandon Lee obviously is Bruce Lee's son. Unfortunately, passed away during production of this movie, which also keeps that overwhelming fear over it, and eeriness and gloom about it, knowing that he died in production of this movie. But it is so entertaining, so awesome. I can't recommend this movie enough. The Crow is just unbelievably cool. It's a cool movie. That's all I need to say. Now, this was my cheer-up movie. This is a movie that puts a smile on my face whenever I watch it. Kick-Ass. I freaking adore this movie. Nicolas Cage as Big Daddy was wonderful. Hit Girl was wonderful. Kick-Ass was wonderful. Red Mist was wonderful. All of this. This is a masterpiece. It is the class of it's the top of its class here, people. One of the most wildly entertaining crowd-pleasing action films since Kill Bill. And yeah, it's true. It's gory, it's fast-paced, it has drama, it has everything that a good movie needs. It's not just a good comic book movie, it's just a straight-up good movie. And some of my friends thought it was a bit too cartoonish, maybe a bit violent. But I still just, I can put this movie in whenever, and I can watch from start to finish without getting bored as many times as I want, because this movie is phenomenal. I can't recommend Kick-Ass enough if anyone hasn't seen it. It's better than the comic. It's one of the few times I'll say it's better than the comic. Now, my favorite comic book movie of all time. Also, one of my favorite movies of all time. Some of these on here would have been ranked, if I made a top 20, would have been on here. But this, I saw this as a kid. Not as a kid. This came out came out in like 2004, I think. And I remember seeing it in theaters, and it was one of the most magical experiences I had in the theater. This was probably even more impactful than the Avengers. And it's not even the first one. It's the second one in the series. The first one, don't get me wrong, that was a wonderful, awesome experience to finally see this character brought to life on the big screen. But this one, no comic book movie in past or in the future, I think, past, present, or future, maybe a movie will come along and prove me wrong and rank the top of this list. But as of now, this is the perfect comic book movie. This is my favorite comic book movie. It is Spider-Man 2. I cannot give this movie enough praise. Doc Ock, Spider-Man, everything in this movie is phenomenal. I know some people say, oh, he doesn't have the quips. He does every now and again, not as much as the Amazing Spider-Man. But the character of Peter Parker, Tobey Maguire, he did it so well. He was way older than Peter Parker was in the comics. I know Peter Parker's supposed to be like 15, 16 years old. He's in high school. And Tobey Maguire looks young. I knew at the time he was like almost in his 30s when this came out. And the way he just fit the Peter Parker role so well. And since this movie focuses on Peter Parker when he's losing his powers, that's what makes it work. And he has to deal with this menacing Dr. Octopus, who, the guy who did Doc Ock, did better at portraying Doc Ock than William Dafoe did portraying the Green Goblin. And William Dafoe did wonderful as the Green Goblin, but Doc Ock in this was phenomenal. Sam Raimi, this is amazing. My favorite Sam Raimi movie is still Evil Dead 2. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But Spider-Man 2, it's like his second ones are always the best. I'm sorry, I'm stupid. This is one of those things that just has to be seen to be believed. It is so wonderful. The way everything is shot, the way the characters are, the acting, the drama, the action scenes are all beautifully strung together. No pun intended. And I know that the web slinging in the newer Spider-Man movies was better, but this, I can't find a single flaw in this movie. The scene where Doc Ock is ripping when the tentacles come to life on his back, that scene still scares me. That scene is terrifying. And it's not even a horror film, but Sam Raimi knows how to do horror, and that scene shows how well he can do horror, even in a non-horror related movie. This is the quintessential comic book movie. There's nothing yet has come along that can match the amazingness that is Spider-Man 2. That is my top 10 favorite comic book movies. I hope everyone can enjoy it, and maybe some people agree with this list. I doubt anyone's going to have the exact same list, especially since my tastes are more sporadic than others. But that's my favorite. Let me know what everyone else's favorite is. I hope to catch you all later. God bless. Take care.